Hello, everyone. Welcome. Again, my name is Aaron, and thanks for joining us today. And a big thanks to John Graham, who has graciously agreed to spend part of his morning talking to me. If you follow Human Kinetics, you should definitely know who John is. He is a co-author, along with Mike Barnes, of Metabolic Training, which is an excellent resource. If you haven't checked it out, I would encourage all of you to get it. This is my copy right here. You can get your own copy on our Human Kinetics website. Your book, Metabolic Training, and how I have tried out some of the workouts myself, and how the workouts that I tried really kind of kicked my butt. And so thanks for helping me realize where I need to improve my own fitness.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, they kick my butt every time I do them too.
No, I definitely appreciate it. Definitely thank you for hopping on for a little bit to talk to us today. So for the listeners, we had John and Mike on for an author talk interview for his book when the book was initially released. But today we're going to specifically talk about 5 pillars of health and wellness. Now, I will preface this conversation by saying that I definitely agree with these 5 pillars, but I don't want to steal credit from John. This was a tremendous idea by him to kind of talk about this topic and get a lot of this information and some of these recommendations out to our listeners. So thank you very much for that. In case there is anyone listening that might not be familiar with your background, can you give us a little perspective on your career and how you got to the point that where you are today in your career?
Sure. Originally I started back in medical fitness back in 1984 when I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh. So I've been doing this, I guess, for 40 years now, I guess would be the best way to put it. I've had a variety of experiences. I started out at Hamlet Wellness Center in Erie, Pennsylvania, and then moved to Allentown back in 1994. And when I moved to Allentown in 1994, I started working for a very large orthopedic practice called Orthopedic Associates of Allentown. And then after 13 and a half years, moved into the hospital arena and worked for Lehigh Valley Health Network for 5. And now I'm very appreciative and very thankful that I've spent the last 12 years working for St. Luke's University Health Network, where I feel I've had my best opportunities professionally to grow and develop and also support the network that I work for.
So everything that you've done is really all encompassing. The fact that you worked for a healthcare network right now, I would definitely say qualifies you to talk about these 5 pillars here, just because you're around it all the time and you probably see all different aspects of this all the time. So let's go ahead and jump in here. So we are talking about the 5 pillars of health and wellness. And the first one on the list might be the most obvious to some people, and that is fitness. Now, it sounds obvious, but there's some guidelines that you can point to that might help people that are struggling with it. I say that it's obvious, but I think this is one where, like, some people might know that they should incorporate fitness into their health and wellness lifestyle, but it's not always the easiest to do.
Right. Well, and I think, the hardest part, Aaron, is I think sometimes people associate that they always have to be going to the gym. Part of the reason why we made Metabolic Training was we wanted to give people a resource that they could do in the comforts of their own home with some dumbbells or filling 2-gallon jugs with water if they wanted to be able to do a workout. But the process and the most important thing about this is everybody always says to me, how do you work out every single day? And my comment always back to them is, how do you not?
Right.
I guess what it comes down to is how you work out, what you do for your workouts, and then also how you incorporate physical activity into your daily life in other arenas as well. And a perfect example that I give people all the time with that is if you have a pet like a dog, do you take your dog out for a 30-minute walk every day to not only help his health and well-being, but also your own personal health and well-being? Yeah. One of the things I talk to people about all the time, I have a lot of friends, clients who have electric fences and they let their dogs out in the yard with the electric fences, but they don't take the dog for a walk. And I say, the dog needs to walk as much as you do. So make sure you're getting out and doing those physical activities. And then little simple things like, do you park further away from a building so you have to walk? Do you take the stairs in buildings as opposed to taking elevators? All of those little things just add up to additional activity in your day that can really be supportive and helpful and beneficial. And then making sure you're doing the right types of exercise. You know, are you doing, you know, cardiovascular exercise and strength training exercises, both, you know, throughout the week, and making sure you're getting enough of both of those to really benefit your body.
I can say for a while for myself, I mean, as you know, personal conversations, you know, everything that I have going on, my schedule's busy, like the majority of other people. So I got to the point where for a while I had been used to getting in like that full hour workout. And I realized that for my lifestyle, multiple jobs, I'm in grad school right now, that simply isn't possible. I can honestly say that this isn't just for show. Thanks to this book right here, it gave me more ideas, or kind of refreshed ideas, so that I can make the most of my time. If I only have 20 minutes, I can still get in a good strength workout, and really feel the benefit of that. You mentioned walking. I saw you this year over the summer at the NSCA National Conference in Baltimore, and I have to say, when I came back from that conference, I felt probably the healthiest that I have in a while. And kind of thinking about everything, you know, I didn't have my regular nutrition plan. I wasn't eating the way that I always had, but the one difference is I was forced to walk everywhere. I didn't have a car with me. You know, I was walking from the hotel down to the conference. If I wanted to get something to eat, I had to walk from the hotel to a restaurant. And that makes a huge difference. So if you are not, I guess for everyone listening, like if you are not used to walking places, just try it out sometime. If it's, you know, if it's not too long of a distance, just try walking somewhere. Of course, if the weather is nice and everything, if you're able to, that makes such a big difference. If you can just add that little extra into your day, and just try to get physical activity in some other way other than being inside the gym.
We have, in our community, we're blessed with the fact that we have 165 miles of trails that go through wooded areas and really nice environments for people to go out and see the trees, see the forest. You know, this time of the year is great because it's the fall and the leaves changing color, things along that line. But, you know, one of the things that I've always really pushed since COVID with a lot of our clientele now is a lot more people are doing less walking and ambulating on a daily basis, just because they work from home now.
Yeah.
You know, which is part of the reason why we came up with metabolic training, as you well know. But also, you know, we want to encourage people, hey, if you are working from home, get out and walk a little bit, whether you're taking your animal for a walk or whether you're out personally with your family, but make sure you get out and do some activity, because those steps that you used to take going to and from the office aren't there anymore if you're working from home. So we have to find alternative ways. And from a stress reduction standpoint, which is part of these 5 pillars, you can't be, you know, going out and walking and taking a break. And part of the other thing is I talk to people about with this whole physical activity concept is really detaching from the, you know, the environments that we're used to now with cell phones and all the different devices that we have to stay attached in the world. And one of the, you know, beauties of our metabolic training classes, which everybody says, why do these classes work so well? And I started laughing. I said, because for 45 minutes, I have your complete undivided attention to do exactly what we want to do. And there's no phone, there's no distraction. You can't go on your phone while you're doing a metabolic workout because it's nonstop. So it gives you that break, not only physically, but mentally, away from those devices, and really gives you a chance to focus on your energy. So going back to what you were just saying, that 20 minutes of exercise, it can equate to some people's 60 minutes of exercise because you're doing it nonstop, 20 minutes.
Yep. And I really felt that difference. I'll be honest. Like I said, I was used to, you know, that full hour-long workout. Now, to be honest, like I kind of look at it as like some days if I'm spending more than, you know, 40 minutes in the gym, like I start to think like, am I wasting time? Like, am I just kind of standing around, like not doing anything? Are my rest breaks too long? That type of thing. So, yeah, all of that really put some of that into perspective for me. I wanted to get into the second pillar that you had listed here, which is nutrition. And I think that that's obviously something that goes along with fitness. People kind of associate the two, but I think just like fitness, I think most people have a good idea of what they should do. the types of foods that they should eat, but implementing the process or the concepts is what I think a lot of people probably struggle with.
Right. Well, and the most important part, obviously, we talk about eating a nutritious breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and small snacks, 1 to 2 times a day. Obviously, making sure you're getting 4 to 5 servings of cups of fruits and vegetables, eating lean meats, low-fat dairy products, limiting your consumption of higher fat meats, sugars, alcohol, and things along that line. But what I always tell people is the most important part of nutrition is, don't feel like you have to be perfect all the time with the way you eat. I think the reason most people fail with nutrition is they're so busy trying to eat perfectly every time they eat a meal that they don't recognize that it's okay to have some calories that come from resources that may not be the best ones. When people talk to me, I say, look, if you can get 80% of your calories from healthy, nutritious sources, that's great. And if 20% come from things that maybe aren't so good, that's okay too, because if you're exercising and you're active and you're doing all those other things on top of it to make sure that you're reaching those optimal levels of health, you're going to be okay.
Now, so there are a couple of strength coaches in particular that that I haven't met in person, but I follow them on Instagram. They are I'll say they are very reputable within the industry. I won't call them out by name right now, but some of them have made the point that, they're upfront about their nutrition and the things that they eat daily. And their point is, I'm successful. I have the body composition that they want, and they feel healthy because they don't restrict themselves from certain foods. So, and that might go more into, they feel better mentally. They feel, mentally healthy because they're not stressing about what they're eating. And of course, there are all different strategies that you can go into, but I think their point is kind of what you were saying right there. Don't over stress about nutrition, but definitely make sure that you're getting in, like your protein, your healthy fats, and that type of thing.
Right. And Aaron, I can certainly validate that from my own personal experiences. A couple of years back, I was working with our health and wellness committee at one of the hospital systems I was working for, and we talked about the importance of BMI scores and making sure that we were trying to help our employees to get their BMI scores in appropriate levels. But at that point, my BMI score wasn't where I wanted it to be either. I was very fit. I was in great shape. I was doing good fitness wise, and I certainly had the muscle mass, but I wasn't as healthy as I thought I should be. And so my thought process was I wanted to make a commitment to making the changes on a personal level, because if you're telling other people to do something, you wanted to do it yourself. And a simple thing that I did, I used to drink a combination of iced tea and lemonade, and it was about 350 calories per serving. And I probably had, on average, 3 of those a day.
Okay.
So when I added it all, that was over 1,000 calories a day. I was just getting from that one particular source. As soon as I cut out of my diet and made some transitions with that, obviously I made other transitions as well. But that one significant transition was tremendously successful in helping me to drop 35 pounds of weight. So it's something that there aren't necessarily big changes you have to make. You look for those small changes that you can make to really enhance your health and well-being. A lot of times with people, the simplest things I can tell them to do is, hey, make sure you're eating breakfast in the morning. A lot of people don't get their days started. And I always tell them it's like running a fireplace. If you run a fireplace and the only time you put wood in the fireplace is at night, the fireplace is going to run out of fuel eventually. The wood's going to all burn up, and it's not going to keep the house heated very long. So if you want to maximally efficiently heat your house, in this case, burn calories from your body, the best way to do that is to make sure you're constantly feeding it with the right amount or the right proportion of food, and also the right resource of food.
Now, I will say, just kind of as a disclaimer here, to make sure if you are going super in depth with your nutrition, which we're talking about not overstressing about it, but if you have a registered dietitian in your area, definitely look to them for nutrition advice. I would say, just like I'm a trainer and strength coach, it's not my responsibility necessarily to give, super detailed nutrition advice, just like I wouldn't want a dietitian giving someone, strength and conditioning advice. We have our own areas of expertise, but just like you said, like just kind of simplifying everything and not over stressing about it. There are ways that you can stay healthy and really incorporate that nutrition into your 5 pillars. So something that you mentioned within the first pillar of fitness, you talked about stress and stress management, and that is the third pillar that we have here. I'd say, everyone has stress in their lives to some degree, whether it's, school, work, taking care of kids or family, maybe other stress from other relationship situations. I'll say I recently did a Learning with Human Kinetics episode on cortisol. For people listening, if you haven't seen or listened to that, I would definitely recommend checking that out. I think the YouTube edited version should be available sometime soon. But within that presentation, I talked about how cortisol is known as the stress hormone, and how we need cortisol to help, kind of regulate and control the stress in our lives. I guess going into what we just talked about, nutrition, cortisol does, stimulate ghrelin, which is also known as, the hunger hormone. But I guess long story short, if we're overstressed, then we can tend to get into kind of that stress eating and maybe overeating. So how would you recommend, kind of managing that stress?
Well, I think the most important thing is, when you are feeling stressed and you are feeling that, the natural tendency for you might be to go and eat something or try to find food or drink or beverage, the best thing that we talk to people about all the time is go take a walk.
Yep.
When you're stressed, having an issue, or, we all have stress in our life. I mean, it's inevitable that we're going to have stress, but how you manage stress is the key thing to that component. And what I tell people is, instead of using food as a release for stress, or alcohol as a release for stress, go for a walk. Go
Yep.
take a walk, take a break. I always laugh. I'm a big animals person, as probably you've gotten the information at this point. But I mean, having a dog in your life or a cat in your life, they can, they don't really care about anything else but having positive attention from you. So they're the one thing.
So true.
Who are going to love you no matter what you're doing, right? I love the newest commercial that just came out that shows a guy who was a referee in a football game, and I guess he made a bad call, and all the fans are booing, the players are booing him, the coaches are yelling at him. He's driving home on the radio. They're ripping him on the radio for the call he made in the football game, and he gets in his house, and the dog climbs up on his lap. Figure out how to break things down into smaller, more manageable tasks each day, and set goals for what you want to accomplish each day. It's the old philosophy that, back when you were in college and stuff, that cramming for an exam the night before the exam, as opposed to preparing for it leading all the way up to it. That's what stress. That's what stress taught in college, right? And why we try to, keep us up at night so we can study for our exams. So if you can set real expectations of yourself as to what deadlines, like when do I have to have this done? How do I have to have this done? What order should I put things in my life to get everything done that I want to get done each day? And then also accept the fact that you can't do everything every day. Maybe there are days where you're not going to meet every task. My oldest daughter is a veterinarian and went through vet school, and then she became a neurologist. She was just overwhelmed sometimes with all the work and all the schooling she was doing and everything. And I'd say, honey, just, get on your elliptical trainer for the next 30 minutes and do elliptical trainer and take a break. And that would have such a positive effect on her, because it would release a lot of this.
Mm-hmm. And I think everything that you said right there is, we're kind of seeing how all of these pillars kind of interrelate and work within each other. We talked about, nutrition and stress management, but also how fitness or staying physically active can help with that stress management. Another thing that goes into that is number 4 on our 5 pillars list is rest and recovery. Now, I think an interesting interesting thing about rest and recovery is that it looks different depending on maybe what phase in life you are. I would say for athletes like the middle school, high school age athletes that I'm training right now, I would argue that they don't get enough rest and recovery from competition and maybe from training and from their sports practices, whereas adults might need to increase their fitness level, but they have other stresses in their life, whether that's, mental stress, psychological stress from the different things that we talked about. I think I saw it was a study published in 2022 where it was something like 28% of men and 25% of women, I think between the ages of 18 and 44, got less than 7 hours of sleep per night. I think that those percentages actually increased for ages 45 to 64. But then they went back down. So I guess for people 65 and older, I guess they got more rest than, people 45 to 64. So what can you tell us about rest and recovery, like the importance of sleep, the importance of making sure that you're rested and recovered for whatever you have going on next?
It's not necessarily just the length of sleep, which ideally should be 7 to 9 hours if possible, but more the quality of sleep and how do you get better quality sleep. And we talked about the importance of lowering the room temperature before you go to bed every night, making sure you're not consuming caffeine or alcohol before you go to bed, trying to reduce the amount of food you're taking in before you go to bed at night. And then also, in addition to all of those things, making sure that you're spending the time disconnecting from television sets, phones, computers, and things along that line before you go to bed, so that you're really in a rested state before you go to bed. The one thing I always tell people is, on a personal note, what helps me a lot is I watch a comedy before I go to bed at night.
Oh, okay.
That seems to put me in a better frame of reference for going to sleep. I don't watch any scary movies or any action movies that would necessarily stimulate my heart rate or anything like that. I try to watch a comedy and laugh a little bit before I go to bed at night.
That's a really good recommendation, because I know if I watch something that, it could be, like you said, some type of like mystery or some type of, scary movie or show. If honestly, if I watch the news, maybe my stress level will be up a little bit right before I go to bed. So I really do like that recommendation. I might have to try that of watching a comedy or something like that right before I go to bed. So great recommendations there. And you mentioned kind of disconnecting a little bit. And I think one of the reasons that some of us have trouble disconnecting is because we always feel like we are attached to work and attached to our jobs. We can get our email and all that type of stuff through our phone. That fifth pillar here is work-life balance, something that I know I could probably do a better job at. Probably a lot of people listening, especially if you're in the strength and conditioning industry, we work long hours and have trouble disconnecting from that a little bit. So what are some of your recommendations on how to kind of find better balance, or at least the perception of better balance, so that you're not constantly thinking about work?
Right. Well, a couple critical things. From a standpoint of the first pillar of physical activity, find a time of the day that works best in your schedule that won't necessarily ever have a conflict to find time to work out. And it's not always consistent, I realize, for people, but there may be days of the week where you can keep it at a consistent time and other days where you keep it at a different time. But try to make that time for that, number one.
Okay.
Number two, set realistic expectations for your work schedule every day. So make sure that you're determining, what am I going to get done at my work today? Well, how many hours is that going to require for me to get that done? And then don't be uncomfortable that you didn't finish everything that you planned to finish that day. Set realistic deadlines for all of your work-related activities and all of your work functions. So making sure that you're giving yourself the amount of time you need. And then, most importantly, make sure you have that home life. That's really essential. Have a balanced home life with your family. Make sure that you spend quality time with them. The one thing that I really stress to people is when you get home at night, put the phone down and keep it away from the area where everybody else is, and detach and take some time to talk to each other in a face-to-face conversation, and get off of the electronic devices. Make sure you're making time at dinner time to stay away from phones or stay away from televisions or computers, and spending that time enjoying each other's company. And that's where, going out and taking a walk can be really beneficial too. If you take a family walk where everybody goes out and does things, or if you have young kids, go out and play with them in the yard as opposed to staying in the house, where there might be that distraction of a phone call or computers or something else to draw you away. I always laugh because I would tell people, I said, I've been in restaurants where I've been sitting, near a group of people there's 5 or 6 people in a restaurant sitting at a table, and all 5 or 6 are on their phone at the same time,
Yeah.
texting or paying attention to something on social media, and they're not actually having a physical conversation with each other.
Right.
That's where work-life balance comes in, because we can't always guarantee in today's society that we're going to have a lot of time. It's how you make the quality time for those personal interactions and those social connections that's so valuable.
Completely agree with that. And I think something that I've noticed and that I've heard other people talk about too is the idea that a lot of us probably feel pressure to get things done at work, or get things to constantly be productive and constantly be working on things, working toward our career. But what I found and what I've heard other people talk about is, if we do take that time away to kind of get refreshed, another pillar that we're talking about, rest and recovery, and that can mean mental too. When we do put time and effort into our work, we're going to be much more productive at that time. We're going to, this could be another one that we, completely different conversation too, but talking about burnout. And I guess that goes along with a work-life balance, but it really, just like you said, taking time away every now and then, trying to disconnect so that you can feel refreshed when it's time to go back to work.
Absolutely. And I think the most important thing is making sure you're detaching from things, because I think we've said that a couple of times in this conversation today, but detaching from the electronic devices that are out there and really engaging socially with people and being connected with people. And it goes back to the whole concept of metabolic training. Is part of the reason why I created that was it really engaged everybody in the group environment to work out together and to be connected, as opposed to people that were doing, putting their ear pods in and listening to music while they were working out, which I certainly don't discourage people from doing, but there's no socialization that goes along with that. Okay. It's just a complete separation. And then a lot of times when you have those things in, other things happen, like a phone call comes in, or you see a text message, or something else happens, and you don't really detach while you're working out, so you don't get that mental break and as well as your physical break by getting a workout in. So I think that's kind of where I go in the process, is that work-life balance really reflects around how are you spending your time away from the work environment, and what are you doing to get the most recovery for your body and your mind together.
Yep, absolutely. And like I mentioned before, I think we can kind of see in discussing these 5 pillars, how they all really interrelate, how one kind of feeds off the other. And if we can incorporate these 5 pillars into our life, it sounds like we'll have a much healthier lifestyle moving forward. We'll be better balanced and everything. So I say that in saying that we have been talking for a little bit. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I sincerely appreciate you spending the time today to talk about this. For the listeners, what are some of the biggest takeaways from this conversation that they can take with them and maybe implement immediately to kind of wrap it up?
Right. So I would say, if I'm going to give you one from each category. Okay. So fitness, try to exercise at least 150 to 300 minutes a week, which is 5 to 6 days a week for at least 30 to 60 minutes. Okay. That's number one. From the nutrition side of things, make sure 80% of your calories are coming from healthy sources. Make sure you're eating a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and at least a couple snacks throughout the day. Disperse your meals evenly. Make sure your calorie consumption is spread out evenly throughout the day. From a stress management standpoint, the big thing is avoid those things that really cause you stress in life. And when you do feel stressed, use exercise as a way to release that stress, either by taking a walk or going out and doing physical activity, as opposed to eating or going for a drink or something along those lines. Rest and recovery, key thing is we're not always going to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but make sure the quality of sleep that you have is good, and make sure the sleep environment is good. Detach from electronic devices, make sure the temperature is cooler in the room, and make sure the room is dark so you can sleep really well. And then work-life balance, the big thing there is make sure that you make time for yourself, make sure you detach from the electronic world, but also detach from the work world, and make sure you make time for your own personal well-being and your own personal health.
Great, excellent points, excellent tips. And another excellent tip is to pick up a copy of Metabolic Training again. I know that wasn't going to originally be the focus, but everything that we talked about kind of points to, you know, just kind of building that full lifestyle so that you can be healthier physically and mentally. So again, thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. I appreciate your friendship and all of your insight. And maybe we can do this again sometime.
Always, Aaron, and hey, you do such an amazing job with this education program with Human Kinetics. Can't thank you enough for all you do. A number of my colleagues have been logging on to all of your different talks and interviews and things, and we just love it. So keep doing the great things you're doing. We're proud of all the stuff that you're doing, and you've really added a new level of expertise and benefit to Human Kinetics by offering these regular podcast interviews and things along that line. It's really been great for us, and I think fitness professionals are connecting with this on a regular basis. So thank you for all you do for us too. We really appreciate it.
Definitely appreciate that. And really that's the whole goal, just to try to spread good information, get great information out there to everyone else, and to create conversations like this so that we can all connect. So again, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.
All right, Aaron. Have a good one with yourself.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.